Great game.
Allianz. Supporting all 32 counties through the Allianz Leagues.
A grain of rice, a grain of rice is going to tip the scale. Just remember that, lad.
There's a small bit of a needle there.
Now, come on, Mayo, you've got to get Andy Moran into the game.
Our mission was to show that we're no longer the whipping boys of Munster.
Well, how are you?
How are you going?
Very good. Yourself?
Oh yeah, bank holiday, Mark. You can't beat it, like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's the start. It's the calm before the storm, though, Dale, isn't it? Is it 2 o'clock or 12 o'clock that Murty's is opening?
Yeah. My daughter Orla there is after telling me that Shane Downs, a mate of hers, he plays for Kilkenny. The 4 local clubs, Mark, if I just explain, are playing at home in the first round of the county league today, and no pub open within 15 miles, like. And Shane Downs texted her this morning and said, "Pity, I tried to get the Kilkenny game switched to earlier, so they'd be there and get the seats." Like, stress, man.
Well, you'll have to hold a few seats from, lad. You know yourself now, those GA lads. You haven't had a point in about 20 months. Are you serious?
No, can't. Sure, every GA lad, even the away teams, they could call to me as well. Like, do you know what I mean? What can I do? Like, lads from Corfin and Cracklow, and can't tell them go away, TJ, can you?
No, Della. No, customer's a customer, isn't it?
That's it, TJ, yeah. Even though the Clare and the Kilmehel and the Shannon Gales lads, the Coolmean lads, Killyser lads, they might have a chance of being here twice a week. Do you know that kind of way?
Hold those fellas for the Monday to Friday.
If you're living in Cracklow, you're not going to have them again for a while, like.
Right, okay.
Look at the stress levels are...
Did you have to sign in, Dale?
Yeah, and you give the name and the number. Well, you give your name and you give the number of the local chipper or something like. I think the names. I don't know. It doesn't seem to work. I don't know. But lads, welcome along. June bank holiday. Delighted to have you on board. Thanks to Allianz for continued support. Welcome back to after a week off. Well, we quite a week off, but we thought we'd have. But myself and Derek discussed it all up in RTE. Derek, how are things?
Grant, how are you getting on? Not a bother.
3 months off, Derek.
Yeah. Someone said the 3 reasons to be a teacher. Yeah, June, July, and August. Yeah, so yeah. I know.
Larry, record that one. It's not that.
I know. I'll give you the spiel about it being a vocation instead, Anthony. You know what I mean? And we love the kids, etc. But yeah, look, great to have the break.
What about a bit of bar work, Derek? How you think? Like, you'll be here in West Clare in about 2 hours 20, like. You know?
2:20, yeah. No. Geez, I'm as clumsy now. I'm as clumsy in a bar as I am anywhere else. So I know it wouldn't be a big.
You can do the car park, Derek. You can do the car park. You're a teacher, Derek. Okay, lads. Lads, the stress levels are through the roof. Like, there's no end to this. And then the nephew decides to get married yesterday. You know, down in the glamping site down in Lavashida. Just a quick plug for that, lads. Absolutely down on the mouth of the Shannon, looking across at Limerick, unfortunately. But class, absolute class. The glamping site down in Lavashida. If only Declan Casey's bar was open, but then we'd probably have wound up down there. So he's not open for a month anyway. But great wedding, Ronan and Nadja. Class day. Really enjoyed it. Now I have to say, everything was done in the pub before we left for the wedding, Mark. That's the way you do it, isn't it?
Jesus, everything done in the pub?
Everything was done. There's a panic attack going on. Some lad from Pat O'Leary, if you listen to the podcast, you better get that glass washer here in the next 2 hours, kid. And as we're recording, it's 10:24, Pat. You have 2 hours to get that glass washer, or I'm going to ferry across to you. Anyway, the small detail there, lads. And we having cash ready for him. Cash, TJ, like.
Okay. I'd say Pat will be on.
Pat will let on. Yeah. I know.
You'll need a couple of set of marigolds.
Washing glasses all day long.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
now
that Derek's not available, you'll be perfect for that job for the whole day.
My hands would be too big to put into the marigolds, Dela. No chance.
Are you all vaccinated now, yeah?
And one shot,
I
guys.
got I got the first shot there 2 weeks ago, so I'm getting the last one on the 22nd of June. So yeah.
Mark, did
Second now.
they take you on?
I haven't. I have the golden ticket. I'm looking at the golden ticket here in front of me, but I haven't got any text message yet to come for the second Pfizer. But looking forward to it now.
They gave you the
Got
first
the first jab. Yeah, well, I kind of qualified around the same. I said the same week. I said, did we?
I was first up.
Looked like they qualified. You probably looked like you qualified before me now, to be fair.
What? Go on. No, lads, we're all vaccinated, so to some extent. So, very great to have you. De La Salle, Waterford. Geez, I just started at the top. I didn't mean to do things this way now, but the notes are skimpy enough today, but sometimes that's the best way, as we know. Geez, Derek, I didn't get to see the whole match with the wedding yesterday, but I switched in around 10 minutes in. Waterford on fire, like double scores. I'm not saying what went wrong, but it was a great game, obviously.
Yeah, they were flying now. They really, like, I think you remarked in your article there on Saturday, Anthony, that we've been speaking. The fact that a couple of things, I suppose, the likelihood of meeting in the championship would probably be the tail end of the championship, you know. So, like, if they both advance, which you probably expect them to advance, but I think they both just went for it up there, you know. They really went for it, and Waterford started really well. Forwards flying. Shane Bennett created a brilliant goal got a brilliant goal himself. Created a brilliant goal for Jack Pendergast. They're really on top. Double score, 6 points up into the end of the first quarter, and then just got caught with a couple of sucker blows against the breeze, while they were with the breeze, and just got caught on the break, if you like, by Galway. But look, good game overall. Waterford be happy with a lot. Obviously, just need to get that kind of defence kind of right, and that's going to be hard in the absence of Tig. Like, I couldn't. I know it's probably oversaid. It couldn't describe how pivotal he has been to Waterford in the last number of years. He's just vital. You know what I mean? I think he's the best in the game at what he does. Like, and because he's able to mix and match the kind of, you know, minding the D with being able to kind of mark his man as well. He's able to do it. You know what I mean? And look, it'll take Austin a bit of bedding in on that, and the debate will be open whether Austin should be further forward and near the Daly should be centre back or something. You know, that's the debate, I suppose. But look, I was just reading Liam Cahill this morning. He was just, you know, he obviously looking at how Clare played the weekend, and he's just a little target for Clare there. He's just going to mention how much work they'd have to do ahead of the Clare game. So the kind of psychological warfare has begun in terms of the, you know, kind of building it down ahead of the Clare challenge, if you like. But I think lots of good for Waterford to take out of the game.
Yeah, and we come back to it, like, because I didn't see it all. No, I have to admit, and then I didn't get back in time for the Sunday game. My research work now. There'll be a lot of listeners to be given out, like, but I didn't even get the examiner this morning. Now things are so hectic with running up and down with classes and everything else on to bubble. Look, I Radio 1 is a great outlet. I always say, like, because they've great old commentary at all the games, and even if you miss a game, they're brilliant. But we'll come back to that one because that was probably the game of the round yesterday. But it was a great weekend, and probably Saturday maybe had the best of it, lads. And, you know, starting off with Belfast, Corrigan Park, what a story, like, overall for Darren Gleeson and Antrim.
Yeah, it was brilliant, Anthony. I only saw the last 15 or 20 minutes of it now, and the first thing that struck me were the mountains that were in the background, a fantastic backdrop at the game. And then the second thing was seeing the little man outside the railing, and he jumping up and down, like, you know. I thought he was like E.T., to be honest with it, in the closet. But I was laughing when I see him ranting and raving outside the rail, and I just said they were after finding a good spot for him now. But what a result, and you know, Antrim, I suppose, got a couple of chances late in the game to equalise it in first place. The second chance, your man nailed it, but it was a great result for Darren and great result for Antrim as well. And, you know, they'll take a huge amount from the league this year. I mean, I suppose poor Westmeath have struggled big time, but Antrim have got a couple of great results and great performances. So great credit to Darren Gleeson and his management team and the players.
Yeah, and TJ, like, obviously these games, we're still saying it's the league, and because of the championship being so close, we're obviously saying, like, that everything's irrelevant. Well, some counties are, like, they're just saying, I'll be judged. And that probably is the case. Like, the end of June, the first weekend in July, if you win your game, be it Leinster or Munster, you're going to be saying, feck the league, like, it doesn't really matter, like, but for an Antrim, like, for Darren Gleeson, bringing them up into Division 1, beat Clare, draw with Wexford, give Kilkenny bags of it in Nolan Park, some going, like, isn't it?
Yeah, it's perfect, and I'm sure Darren would have been delighted to be in the side of the league that he was on, because there was a couple of games there that he could really tap, as opposed to a Westmeath, which just on the outset appeared to be much more difficult where they were at. There was a small touch of myself and Big Barry about Davey and Darren there on the sideline, there on stage. But I think the league is more or less what I certainly expected. I think what you would expect when you plant 5 games in a 6-week period. I think teams have been picking and choosing. Most, I think, squads have been in the high 20s or nearly 30 players being used. Some teams have targeted certain games. They've looked at players in different positions. We've seen guys playing both the backs and the forwards. So I think that everybody seems to be getting their house in order. The league, has it been a massive success? It's disappointing for me, I said at the start, that there isn't a league final. We might have one at a time, take some of the glass off it, right? Like Kilkenny have the other side one now with a game to spare. But overall, I think you're right in what you're saying, that I think in 2 or 3 or 4 weeks' time, we won't even remember these games. My opinion is, I think teams are well prepared. I think they're all ready to go. I think they know their top 20 now in a lot of cases, maybe except for Cork. We'll come back to that one. But I think in general, the managers have an awful lot of work done in terms of getting game time. And you might have, which we're not privy to, and I think Derek touched on it already, is like teams might have a week where they might have trained through a game or whatever. So they might have used the training block in that. So we won't really know that until it comes down to the first or second round of the championship. And that's what teams will be judged on, especially, I suppose, trying to win your first game, get a bit of momentum. So, yeah, I suppose it's serving a purpose. It's giving one game time. Definitely Antrim, to answer your question, will be very happy. The profile for them, the results that they're getting, it's been a massive success. And you'd probably have to say at this stage, they're probably the story of the league.
Yeah, I'd say the story of the league, you're right. Probably that and Kilkenny, I suppose, like Kilkenny, just same old, turn it up. But Derek, from a Wexford point of view, I mean, that group looked a bit, not lopsided, but it looked easier, the 2 groups, let's say, from a Wexford point of view, a Clare point of view. And for Clare, it wasn't that easy either. They've lost to Antrim and lost to Wexford now. They beat Dublin, which was a big result, obviously, but they've Kilkenny tough. But from a Wexford point of view, we sat through the whole thing all day, last Sunday, and they were abysmal against Kilkenny, literally. But they did seem to be fired up, and leave out Davey getting sent off and all that, because he was fired up. And we know that's Davey at his best, but they still couldn't get a result up there. Well, they got a result, but they couldn't get the win up there. Is it worrying from where their form is at? I think it is. But I suppose, look, if they come out and beat Laois and beat Kilkenny, sure, we'll all be saying, what's the league about?
Yeah, I wouldn't be as worried now, because you've made the point already. Even if you look back at the first free in the match that Rory O'Connor was fouled for, he was actually, the fist pumping was out. He was, they looked like the team were really up for it, even to the end when Davey was in the stand and he was completely animated near the end. But sometimes I know when a result wasn't going my way over the years, and if you're sent to the stand, not that it ever was, you'd just be downbeat. You're not able to keep that kind of sustainable kind of aggression going up the stand. They're more thinking about, Jesus, I made a show of myself there, but I kind of, I'm disappointed in my own behaviour, and you kind of, you kind of. So, but I actually think the crowd that was at the game obviously added to the kind of fervour of the game, and I actually think Wexford might point to the fact that I thought there were signs that they were starting to hum a small bit in that game. They were starting to hum a little bit towards the form that they're capable. I thought the pace of the game was good, and that's where the respect for Antrim is not alone. It's not this. It's not this kind of patronising kind of, look, they love their hurling up and they're very passionate about it, and the pockets of the area that they love it. But I think there was quality to their play as well. And but I don't think Wexford will be as disappointed or as doom-laden over getting the draw up there. The hard thing, and I'm only again personalising, is sometimes if I was involved in a result like that over the years, and I have been involved in plenty of them, and I know I think, Anthony, when you were Dublin manager, you often talk about the match against Antrim, where it kind of nearly takes you 3 or 4 days to pick yourself up, even a week or a month after that. It's the localised world then of Wexford or Waterford, and how it kind of permeates its way to your thinking or your group, if you like, and that can have a serious effect. But I don't think Wexford I think Davey is strong enough kind of to deal with that, and obviously the fact he's not living in Wexford, he might have to encounter a lot of that stuff he only probably tips down for the training, etc. But I think Wexford will actually be. I still fancy Wexford to get to overcome Leach, and I don't think the Kilkenny-Wexford game is as straightforward as people think as regards Kilkenny, because the Kilkenny have basically railroaded through the league. I still have a fairly strong fancy that Wexford will produce against Kilkenny in a Leinster semi-final, and that'd be my thinking on it anyway. But look, that's that's it.
Yeah, no, I think we'd all feel that. Well, I certainly felt that I'd fancy Wexford to be in the Leinster final from that side of the draw. But you won't be worried now. They weren't good against Clare. Honestly, they weren't. I was there that day, and they came with a late surge once Clare got the men sent off, and they weren't good. They weren't good last Sunday anyway. We were looking at them.
Yeah.
And I do think Antrim have come on a ton. I think they're really playing well, and up there as well. It'd be hard to beat, and it'd be interesting to look at the Dublin game when we do championship previews and that. I think that's a match that most people will feel now is no more than 50-50. I think it's down to be on in Navan as well. It's fair weird, you're saying, unless championship match in Navan, So,
Yeah.
But that, I think that's a great team, Mark. We saw it on Saturday, the crowd in Corrigan Park, and I mean. I remember saying, lads, we were doing the first game, Limerick and Tip, a drawn match, 20 points each in the Gaelic grounds. And I remember saying to Henry, we'll have no classics until the crowd come back. Because imagine Limerick and Tip, and Limerick come off behind, 5 points down, and the crowd roaring, railroading. You saw a taste of it in Corrigan Park, where the locals were driving on their men. And I think it's so important to our games. We probably underestimated last year. We said, sure, they're all training, they're all treating the whole thing professionally, getting themselves right. And we still have great games, but the crowd has so much of a part to play.
Oh, the crowd has a huge amount, and there's a good number of players have spoken that they get so much from the crowd as well themselves on the field of play, and it rises them a couple of feet off the ground, a great score, or when a team is pressing to try and get a result, the crowd will try and get you over the line. And the crowd also does have a slight influence on the referee from time to time on a 50-50 decision. It might go your way based on what the crowd are actually sensing. But even the fact that there was only 500 people there over the weekend, there seemed to be a great atmosphere there as well.
Ish, man.
Ish, yeah, exactly. But it's and I hope, I think the Cork Limerick game in the championship is one of the games that's down that there will be, as 5,000 people are going to be allowed. And I mean, I really hope that if you're vaccinated, Anthony, and you have got your 2 jabs and stuff for that, I would love to see the GA and the government moving towards, if a person is fully vaccinated, there should be no reason why they shouldn't be allowed to go into the games. I mean, if it means that they have to wear a face mask during the match, I think that a lot of people who are vaccinated would accept that as a minimum standard or a minimum requirement. But trying to put a number on it of 5,000 people in a 45,000 stadium or an 80,000 stadium, I think that's unfair. I do believe that if people are vaccinated, they should be allowed to go in. But just going back to Wexford, I actually think the whole COVID debacle has had an effect on the Wexford team, and I think it'll be shown up in the championship come yet. I don't think Wexford are a patch on what they were 2 years ago. I think they have been in a downward spiral, to be honest about it. And I know Davey has been brilliant for getting teams up for matches. But I actually would be worried for Wexford now, Anthony. I don't think Laois will beat them, but I do think that Kilkenny will beat them when it comes to the Leinster semi-final. Brian Cody's men gave him a fair lesson in Nolan Park, and I think that down through the years I've seen a real genuineness out of Kilkenny, that when there's there was an awful lot of messing went on with that Wexford-Clare game, and how 2 Clare players got nominated as close contacts and no Wexford player. It just does not make sense. And I know now we want to just forget about it and move on, but I actually do think it resonates with the players in Wexford. And I do think locally in Wexford that the general public are in the players' ears. And that's what actually affects teams, is that the general public are saying, Jesus, there's something wrong there, that's not right. And no matter how you try to stay away from it, I do think it actually gets the players at some stage. Yeah, there has been a wrongdoing here. It's not of our making, but we are in the press and we shouldn't be in the press. And there's no one wants that as amateur players.
Yeah, I suppose that's what I was going to mention it today now, I suppose, but moving on. But yeah, it is something, I suppose, that if you're listening to their work, if you're listening to with your buddies now, because you probably now are turning up for club training. If you're a county player, even, aren't you? You're showing your face, I suppose. I don't know, Derek. You've a bit, but Derek, you've a bit of involvement with the Harriers. I suppose Lee Chin would show his face whenever he could. Like I'm doing a bit with Sarsfields, and in fairness to the likes of Joseph and Darren and those, they'd always stick their head in when they weren't training. So I suppose it's hard to avoid stuff.
Yeah, he's there. Like, just on the Chin one, I'm as I said, there's a management team in the Harriers. When I'm down there and I'm enjoying it, and he's there every night himself. Richie Richie Lawler's in the panel there. We haven't seen him yet this year. I think you will see him before the end of the year. But yeah, he's there every night. And look, no more than any club you have in the club, particularly like the Harriers or any club, you have fellas at different levels and fellas of different walks of life and different ways, I suppose. So look, it's very hard to escape the talk around the whole thing. People are mad for chat about it. People are mad for a bit of gossip. But look, most inter-county players, you mentioned it last Sunday night about the code of honour that you'd expect to be kind of linked between them. Most inter-county players are doing their best to keep kind of quiet on these things. They don't want to really open up about it. It's like when you meet your own clubman, Shane Mack or Kevin up in the club. You're not inclined to ask him about who you playing the weekend, who's playing, what position you playing. It's kind of, I don't know. I'm not sure. It's not an awkwardness, but it's kind of it's more a respect thing that you don't actually want to interfere in the fact you've been involved before. It's hard really to kind of quantify that.
But the general public don't think like that. You see, Derek, and you're right in what you're saying. You're not. But the general public, they don't give a shit, Derek. They just want to talk about what's going on. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you're right.
And they're the fellas that ask the awkward questions. Well, you don't want to ask the awkward questions, and like there are still so many questions not answered in that situation. And the big one for me, and I know now we're rumbling over all stuff, right? How the hell did two players become close contacts when the Wexford players traveled together, stayed in a hotel together, ate together, were in huddles together? It makes no sense, Derek. And the general public are the people that will actually seep into your resolve. I'm going to finish on that, to be honest with you.
I think there's a massive championship for Davey. Like I think his time in Wexford. Yeah, he has a Leinster title, but I do think this championship is huge for him. I don't think, from his own point of view, he will have been happy with the last 2 years. Certainly, the way things have gone. I think this is huge. The 4 games they've played, they're averaging 11 points from play, which will be a little bit of a worry. They did start very well against Antrim. You would have expected them getting the goals that they got early doors, that they'd kick on and win that game. So for me, like Derek saying that there are some positives in there. Their game is still a little bit in there. It's a little bit long ballish now, which obviously is the right way to go. But I just think that they're kind of team that's a little bit in no man's land. They're not playing as well as they should be. Championship is huge for them. I do agree. I think they'll beat Laois. I think that Kilkenny game is huge for Davey. And I think that for him, he would really, really need to get a result there. Get beat by Kilkenny, I think if he gets beat by Kilkenny and doesn't win further games in the championship, his overall in Wexford will be questionable.
Yeah, it is there's no sure. Look, it's a time circle. He's there as well. He's there a good while. I know myself when you're there a good while. Just some years become, Jesus, this is it. And sure, look, he knows himself. I'd say he's not trying to get away from that. He knows himself that they're at a certain stage. They could have won the All Ireland 2 years ago. We'll all acknowledge. I think they were right there. Jesus, I actually thought they were going to beat Tip, and they were going to, if they were in the final with their well of support. But TJ, just to go back on the crowds, I would have felt over my playing time, no crowd had more of an influence over a game. And I respect that Cork brought more than anybody to games. Do you know what I'm saying? Cork brought a crowd tournament that no one could match in terms of numbers, but I would have felt always that got in my head the most was the Limerick crowd. The Limerick passion and the Limerick noise was incredible. And for you, watching games, going to games. I know you've been frustrated now with commentators not giving you the lineups and who's playing here and who's playing there, or who's gone back sweeper, who's gone back. Like, I even put a quick text up on our thing yesterday watching the first half. Lads, where is Sean Loftus playing? Is he man marking Aussie, or what's the story? And we're all looking at it like we can't put, and especially the Irish would be hectic with a few of us now. Derek, I know how you are. You're good in English, kid. I know about the Irish. Like,
No, not too bad. Not too bad at the Irish.
but it is something that TJ has raised it here, there. Like, like obviously Adrian Toohey is named the wing forward. Sean Loftus is named the other wing forward. It's very hard watching on TV, isn't it, to know what actually. Now, lads, if anyone watched it back, Adrian Toohey's goal, the first goal that brought Galway back into the game. Talk about selfless running through the middle. That middle runner, the ball is played wide. I think it was Dessie Hutchinson, was it? The one possession had a chance, and Toohey, or no, Conor Whelan, sorry, and he had a chance, but like he just steamed through the middle. No chance of getting it, maybe, but the ball rebounded to him. And geez, lads, you're training teams, you're on about that third man runner. It was a selfless run, but when I saw the Galway team, I said, what is Shane here, Shane O'Neill? Like, they have a fair, obviously, pick with the two wing forwards, or possibly your two corner backs.
Yeah, they've savage firepower. It'll be very interesting to see what the top six forward are, because there's so many options. The other one on that point, Dalo, for me was Dahi Burke. I was trying to make out at the start of the game, Dahi Burke playing at centre back with Gerard McInerney at full back, and then look at television and you get the line out where you see the Dahi Burke is playing 3, and then you're trying to figure out what the situation is there. So they took Padraig Mannion out of centre back yesterday. They've played a couple of different backs, but to me, like, Galway appear to have the strongest squad. No, I think that they have more players. I think they have a stronger squad than Limerick. I think they do. I think.
On what basis are you saying that? Like, Limerick fellas are 2 All-Irelands, right?
I just think that if Limerick, like, in terms of squads, right, like first 15th obviously is one question. I think that the front 8 or 9 that come down in Galway, there's going to be 2 or 3 really good players disappointed, because they have such a firepower. Like yesterday, like, is David Burke going to be playing in the middle of the field? You probably say he is, right? Evan Nilan didn't start. Joseph Cooney didn't start, right? Niall Burke didn't start.
But right? TJ, hold on a sec now. Why are the 2 cornerbacks playing wing forwards then? Like, if they have the best because forwards.
I would imagine, like, in the modern game, Dale, as you well know, the wing forward role now, right, of basically probably being completely up and down, and come back, like, you're basically doing 30-yard line to 30-yard line all day long, and in that mixture. So obviously there was a reason for it. Shane probably looked at the Waterford way up that middle third, saying we're going to need a lot of effort and work and ball carrying in here. That's why he picked those 2. So, like what I was saying about the league, it's fine. It's horses for courses. Finding out on a given day, if I decide to go with these 2 runners and ball carriers here, can they do a job for me? And yesterday proved that they can.
Yeah, like we were slagging, obviously, we were always slagging about the fantasy hurling, and second Larry is back on top this morning, so we won't give him much of a plug. Like, but the race for the bottom is still very hot. But you would have said, like, when hey Larry, go away. He's after flattening up the street there. The small bit of needle gone to the top again. 904 points. 888 the Clarecastle Magpies. Moved on. I'm just going to call out the clubs. Laura Dora, that's Kinhogan. De La Salle, that goes without questioning. Young McGrath, ex-midfielder there, coming in. TJ, you've come away from that zone, TJ, kind of.
There was a lot of worry. Newcastle,
you've done a Sam Allardyce.
Big Sam.
Tony
nearly the highest scorer of the weekend, almost, like, besides Larry, would be Honda Queen from Killa, the Green of Killa. 259 on the week, and it has moved him up the overall scoring differences a nice bit, and we like everyone that's on this show to be actually not down competing with the very lowest on the whole fantasy hurling. So I'm delighted for you, but what's happening? Like, who's your captain, Mark?
I went for Jason Ford over the weekend. I changed it. I had Tony Kelly as captain, and I switched over to Ford. I know. And so that's how the bouncer picked up, because he left Kelly as captain. But David McInerney has been a killer for me all year long. Like, did he play over the weekend?
He came on in injury time. I'd expect him to line out next weekend, Mark. So
I know, but four matches, no score. Like, you know, I never changed them out, which is a problem. And
I've Jonathan Tracy from Dublin in goal. He hasn't poked the ball, but I reckon a goalie not letting in 6 or 7 goals is not too bad either. Like.
It's a big help. Yeah. No, if I could catch Hoagie, I'd be quite happy now. To be honest with you, but it's a tall order.
Hoagie, when you hear this later on, have a word with Cody, will you?
Leave TJ off again. The Dalo's gone.
Derek, did you think there was a different approach from the referees over the weekend? Are we seeing a bit more of that advantage rule kind of being let go? It certainly looked at from when I was looking on television.
Yeah, I think it's actually hung with the last couple of weeks. You know, I think the Waterford Limerick match was refereed relatively well down in Welsh Park. I think there's been not a reaction to podcasts or commentary, I suppose, but I think there's been a kind of the general direction is going in the way that we want now. I'm going to contradict myself when you look at, at Tony Kelly, 20 points, Donald Burke, 14 points. You know, but I think generally the whole advantage rule has been refereed a bit better. That this, I know Fergal Horgan, I thought yesterday, now refereed the Waterford Galway match well in terms of just the general application of the rule, the sharpness and be able to see a situation develop, bring it back where necessary. You know, the big one I have, and again, we're probably repeating the point we made a few weeks ago, is a wing back comes out, just take a Porrick man in, half tackle, he's on the way out, he throws it to a midfielder, and when they're blown back in that situation, I can't understand it. So when the play is obviously developing in front of you, that's the frustrating one for me.
Yeah, but you're right, Derek. Like, the referees are certainly leaving the advantage rule develop the way it was meant to be in the last number of years, and even the goal opportunity on Saturday night with Conor Boylan when he went through, he was definitely fouled, but the ref left him keep going, and he kicked the ball, and Patrick Collins saved it. But definitely they're giving the opportunity to the player to leave the game develop. Now, whether they're going to be brought up in Croke Park about that, or is it just the referees in general have said to themselves, lads, look, we are refereeing the game a long time. We know what's right and wrong for the game. That's a big question, I suppose, that has to be answered yet. But I hope the referees are, I won't say taking the law into their own hands, but they are doing the right thing for the players and for the game itself.
Definitely better. I thought there's a better flow in some of the games. Now, the other thing too, I suppose, is being league matches and maybe heading towards championship, we'll say later in the month. Was there a lack of physicality and a lack of real championship in that middle third over the games that we saw as well, which made life a little bit easier for the referees?
I suppose, TJ, it depends on which game. Like, certainly the Cork and Limerick game had no physicality whatsoever, so that was a very easy game to ref. But the Waterford Galway game, I thought yesterday for the first 15 minutes was an extremely physical game. There was no quarter after given, and I didn't see a whole pile of the other games that were actually played. But just on the Waterford and Galway game, that was an extremely physical game for me, particularly in the first half. I thought the tackles were ferocious in that game. And I would say that Fergal Horgan is probably the number one referee around at the moment. I thought he had a fantastic game. I'd agree with Derek wholeheartedly. He's a fan, and he has a grasp on the game, and he has a grasp on the players as well. And he takes no messing from the players. And he is a strict referee, but he actually is a referee that I think the players do respect, and the players are fond of him. And I think he's setting the standards for all the other referees as well.
Have we enough of him? Have we enough?
And he listens to us, man.
Fergal Horgans. Have we enough Fergal Horgans, TJ? Do you know?
Well, the good thing about Fergal Horgan is he was on here and clearly listening to us now, right? Because it looks like the referees have changed. They're allowing the advantage rule to go a little bit more. They're getting ready for championship. Have we enough of Fergal? Like, I think he's very sensible in his overall approach. I think he definitely tries to go with the flow of the game. Look, I told you, Dalo, I'm the relationship intact with all these referees. I'm not going to knock them. I'm going to let them get on with it. So the answer to that question is yes, we do. We have some very good referees in the country, Dalo.
Could you give me a few mobile numbers for the refs in Galway, TJ?
They're all deleted.
I can. Again,
No, it was.
Lee-
Sorry, a slight connection error there, lads. The West Clare Wi-Fi. I'll have to up their game here as we enter the summer. We're all right in the National League, but obviously switched to the game in Galway. Is there something to be said? I wanted to ask this today. Is there something to be said, lads, for a team in another province? Like there was a general ramp up in the league, Derek. I would have said, but yet the Cork Limerick game wouldn't have matched that. I would have felt. With the teams who could have a free shot at each other.
Yeah.
Watford going up to Galway yesterday.
Yeah.
They may meet in Ireland semi-final. They may meet in a qualifier. They may meet.
Yeah.
But they know they're not meeting early. And there's no draw made.
Yeah.
So you're going up saying, this is one of the best teams in the country. Galway are saying the very same thing. And it's brilliant stuff. Like, and even the structures of the league, if we could look at more, like that group is totally unbalanced with Westmeath, with due respect to all the Munster teams in Galway. Do you know what? It is, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think I think we're at the end of a 2-year trial of those groups. I think we are, Anthony. Larry might know that. I think we can check that as the guys just do geographical split, not the geographical split, but the split based on where they had finished 2 years ago in 1A and 1B, if you like, it was dictated by that, who was the winner, who was the loser, who was the semi-finalist, which you'd often see in the club situation. So yeah, your point is well made. I think I made that point already. If Waterford playing Galway yesterday, the likelihood of meeting the championship is fairly strong, but look, what are Waterford doing at the moment? Waterford are delighted. Like, they don't have to play. That's why they didn't have to play Clare in the league of the championship. So it's only they've eyes on that, as have Clare. Let's make no mistake about it. The interesting one even next week will be, and Anthony will think I'm looking too far ahead now, but Waterford will play Tip next Sunday in Welsh Park. You know, do they have half an eye on playing Tip again in the semi-final of a Munster Championship? Now, obviously, Brian Lohan will have a massive
Lovely.
No, they'll have a massive say in that. Like, so it depends on what you're coming off the back of, if you like, in terms of, you know, your trajectory. You already said Antrim is the story of the league, you know, are the story of the league, and they need, it's like, I suppose, in 14 we were relegated in the league, right? And we made a lot of changes at the start of 15, and we were down in 1B, and we had to attack the league in every game because we had to build a bit of support from the support. We had to build a bit of belief within our squad, with a young squad, etc. So we attacked the league and subsequently won the league. 16 we did the same. 17 you go at it, you get to a quarter final, but you don't openly say in the dressing room, lads, we're not going out to win this game. You know, I think that kind of mantra that's out there, that you're in the dressing room, kind of, you know, almost taking it easy. You might have a lesser squad available, but it's your point is well made. I think a bit more thought process involved in, you know, even looking at doing the Munster Championship draw early in the year, saying, right, who's playing who? How can we make the games more interesting? Yeah, but by drawing people against each other that are not likely to meet in the championship. You know, I think that's very, you know, that should be evident in what they do going forward.
And Derek, just to stay with Waterford, like I said, I didn't see all the game, but I was following Radio 1 after seeing the first half. Like, someone texted me in the middle of it all saying Waterford are, as Clareman obviously looking at Waterford meeting them at championship. I said, Waterford really good. And I was saying the manager is very clever as well. I think the way he's built things. But like, where is he going home then yesterday evening? Like, still shipped the fair score now.
Yeah, look, again, you're only trying to put yourself in his position. You're kind of, look, without sounding too cliche, you're taking the positives and you're looking at it. Like that's probably Waterford's championship full back line, we'll say yesterday, right? Conor Gleeson back in his best position, I would feel, right? Conor Prunty, Jay Mack. Right, then you have Caleb Lyons on one wing, right? Definitely, he'll be definitely one wing. But the decision then is you go to Earl Daly at centre back and Kevin Moore at left half back, or do you stick with Austin at 6? You have Jamie Barron plus one other in the middle of the field, definitely. And their forwards will consist of Desi Hutchinson, Stephen Bennett, Shane Bennett, Desi Hutchinson. Do you have Austin up there? It depends on whether he's at 6 or not, you know. And Jack Prendergast, really good players. So
Jack Fagan,
that's your question. Who?
Fagan, I presume.
Jack Fagan.
Fagan as well, obviously. Sorry, Jack Fagan. So, like, that's their championship team. That's a good team. That's a very, very good team, a very good, pacey team. So, where are you going home to answer your question? I think you're still saying to yourself, right, Clare had a big win the weekend, right? So, the speculation around Clare being in turmoil is now being replaced by Clare. Hey, Clare not so bad here. Colin Galvin back, Ian Galvin back, Davey McInerney back, Aidan McCarthy going Kelly. Well, you know, Tony Kelly humming, you know, Shanahan on the edge of the square. So said it last night, like forewarned is, it's forearmed, as regards. So I think it's similar with Antrim. We're talking today saying, oh, Jesus, Dublin will be on their guard. Antrim now have a bit of a target on their back for that Dublin match. And people will talk, and it's the same now with Clare. They're not as under the radar as they were based on what they did the weekend and what they might do. They're building nicely. And I think Cal is in a good place, and I think he's sharp, like the Beavens. They're sharp fellas. I think they'll be right for the end of June.
Derek, would you think Derek he'd look at the possibility of playing Austin at 7 in a Kyle Hayes type role? I think that, like we spoke about the whole centre back and centre forward. Centre back is a tricky place to play at the moment because we have some guys who are playing there in that quarterback type role, how described. They don't tackle, they don't really do much on the distributors of the ball. Some guys are marking, some guys are sitting there. Like it nearly looks like as if he feels restrained in that centre back role. Would he be better at a 7? Would he offer more? So I suppose that's the question he has for him. And then because Ira Daly filled that 6, like if you had Callum Lyons, Ira Daly, and Austin at 5, 6, and 7, you would think he'd be in that form.
Yeah, and look, I go back. Austin won the league in 2015. He was right half back, and he actually in the league finally got 3 points from play from right half back in 15 against Cork. He went up the sideline. Mark was actually, I think, selected with Jimmy Barry that day. I think he was anyway. Yeah, and
he's brilliant.
Yeah, he's attacking from there. It's a very good point. The key thing is just escaping the debate around Austin and his positioning for him. For him from a kind of a steadiness point of view for himself. You know what I mean? Like I always felt his best position was in the middle of the field, kind of. As just standing at where the referee used to throw in the ball. That's what I used to say. Kind of just we often put him there as kind of an extra midfielder that. Just stand there and use it where the referee throws in the ball and just go forward from there as much as you can. And you give him a license to go everywhere. But 5 is a good point, and I think you'd have the threat of Caelan Lyons and Austin from either side. You'd have Ira Daly sitting at 6, and you might have an extra midfielder there. A midfielder just keeping an eye on defensively what can be done there. One of the 2 guys allowing Jamie Barron, allowing Caelan Lyons, allowing Austin Gleeson to go from that 5, 7, 8 channel, if you want to put a kind of rugby term on it.
Like Kieran Bennett, I think would be in your starting 15, and I think Kevin Moran, Kevin is an extremely experienced player. Like he won't make too many mistakes, and his positioning is excellent. So I can see Kevin playing, and it might be starting to wing forward and coming back in a but it all depends where they play Austin Gleeson. But I mean. Those 2 players for me would be making up your 15 players. But like the issue, I think, come the championship match between Waterford and Clare will be who's going to back Tony Kelly. And Austin Gleeson, if he's centre back and Kelly if he's centre forward, Gleeson won't go with him. Derek,
Caelan Lyons will pick Kelly. I think we can nearly talk about that matchup in advance. I think anyway, like based on now, Tony went off injured. Obviously, last year got injured in the warm up down in probably Cleve. He nipped the point early off Caelan Lyons. But Caelan, the problem is if Tony goes to corner forward like he did against Clare.
But is that not Corbin an awful lot of Caelan Lyons is nearly like an attacker, no matter where he's playing, Derek. He's unreal, like lads that don't really even follow were texting me, and we were really tuned into the match. I'm on a couple of WhatsApp groups and said, Jesus, young Lyons is some player, like he offers so much. Would you put him on Tony Kelly then? Like it's and restricting his. I know Tony Kelly has to be marked.
The debate, I suppose. Look, the thing you might be saying is Kelly goes so deep at times. You'd be hoping that if Waterford win the ball, that Lyons is alive then when he's as deep and he's in play going forward. But look, I think he did a really good job on him last year. I'd hate to be sitting here on a Monday morning after Clare play Waterford and we haven't man-marked Kelly. We haven't decided to. We've decided to kind of give him the free rein at hurls, and we say, look, we were passing him from fella to fella, which we did before in a league final of 16. We said, look, whoever's area he comes into, lads, we'll take him. And we got lost in the transition of that, if you like, And for the championship match, then we put Philip Manny on him, stuck him to him for the whole 70 minutes,
Would Kieran Bennett do that job, Derek?
He would, and he'd do it well, and he's done it in the past with LIT and with Waterford. Yeah, he would. Another good option to do it, definitely.
Yeah, now that you're mentioning that sounds like a good matchup for me, Mark. Like I would have thought.
Well, I think Kieran, like you're right. If Caelan Ryan ends up being a marker and you take away from Caelan a bit of Caelan, like he was outstanding in halfback last year. Didn't have a great final now, that's fair enough. Look, we all know that. And he seemed to get lost in the match in the All-Ireland final. But leading into the All-Ireland final, he was outstanding all year long. And the runs that he was making up the field and getting scores at the end of them as well was fantastic. So you are taking a bit from his game.
Just that, I'm actually living in that parish, the parish of Kilmead, Ballyloughlore. He's an absolute gentleman as well, lads. Talking about a guy that absolutely loves the game. Like he would be down in his club field. It's obviously not my club, but it's my parish, I suppose, that I'm living in. But he's just an absolute role model to all the people in the area there. And look, a guy I would have had in 15, and I'd openly admit that it slipped up on him. Didn't saw the potential, but kind of thought he wasn't ready then. He was only 18, 19, and you know, you look back on these things, and you kind of say, Jesus, you could have brought him in a little bit earlier. You know, it's the whole setup, and he's really he's a credit to his family. You know, Sean is involved as trainer of the intermediate Ballyduff team there. I know he does a huge amount of work with the juveniles down in Ballyduff, so proper young lad, you know.
Yeah. So I take it by that, Derek, although you are De La Salle from your Arseborn, the children will play with Ballyduff.
No.
No, why would you mean no, Derek? Yeah, I'm Derek, but my daughters kick football with Shannon Gales back here in West Clare. What's the story, Derek?
Take off now. No, the boys are playing. They're going to. Look here, we'll blame the school. They're going to school in their house, so they have to play.
There's a handy lift in the morning.
Yeah. Handy lift in, yeah, exactly.
Well, on that, like we're talking. Sorry, TJ, just to move it a little bit, but we're keeping on the same team. Like there would have been doom and gloom around Clare. Like honestly, no, I'm not trying to deny that. Like there's all off-field stuff taken away. Mark referred to stuff earlier. But I think there was a huge kind of sense. Now the pub was only opening today. You'd love us open Saturday night, you know, because lads go in to watch the Clare game. Have you heard Sport Day? That'll be the first thing. No, play GA, go there quick. But you know, I'd love it now to. And I will get a bit of it today because you can't go down to my place, but you get a belt of a football or a hurling ball. But I'd say the mood would be a fair bit lifted by going to Parnell, TJ, and conceding 2 goals, not getting a goal, and still winning maybe a touch, as we'd say in the race in terms, a touch cosy at the line, like.
For value first, I would agree. Like going to Parnell Park and winning is definitely a huge boost of confidence. I felt it Clare really well against Wexford. I said that to you already, and I thought the results just kind of went away from the finish. I think, even on, I think both Clare and Waterford are in a similar territory. I think they're both scoring well. Right? Like if you look at Waterford's 4 games, they've scored 30 points, 25, 55, and 32 yesterday. Right, if you take 323. Clare scored 22, 24, 33, and 34, right? So their attack is moving reasonably well. I know now you probably say a lot of them from freeze, right? But they're scoring reasonably well. I think whichever one of those 2 teams gets their defence personnel right, I think actually the board issues are similar, right? In that the number 6, for me, the jury's out in number 6 in both of them. Like Austin's a super player, no doubt about that, right? But can you get the best out of him in the new number 6, the way hurling is played, right? John Conlon is something similar, right? So, like, could both of them be used somewhere better? But massive positives for both camps in that they're playing reasonably well, they're getting a couple of results, they're scoring well. They have to fix the defence. I think whichever one of them 2 teams fix their defence better will have a great chance of making progress in the Munster Championship.
Yeah, and I think, like, just looking at the Clare point of view, the huge things for me, like, were David McInerney's a bit of a head issue for me because he hasn't played much, but he did come on as a sub, so that would indicate he's nearly ready to maybe be chucked in next week against Kilkenny. But both Galvins, like Ian and for me, Cullum, like, would be nearly the heartbeat of that team, and that's what obviously Tony is the man, but Cullum, Galvin, and now we all know underage as well, Galvin, Kelly, and back to 13, like they were the midfield of I suppose, of an All-Ireland winning team. So I just think that Cullum Galvin played, I think, 72 minutes is huge. Must be for Brian Lohan driving down from Dublin Saturday evening, Mark. Like that man, like it's like, we'll talk about Cork and Limerick in a minute, but you know, a key man that you've out for so long and he's back and hopefully he's fine after us. You know, the way we're always watching on and we can't hear stuff at the moment about how we came through it. But that must be a massive thing. A key man to get a match like that in Parnell Park under his belt.
Yeah, it would look like Clare are just timing their run very, very good. TJ remarked that they should have beaten Wexford. I mean, they had a game wrapped up and Wexford got 2 goals against the run of play and just caught him on the line. But I'd say like a couple of key players like Galvin, he's a super player. He's great skill but he's great energy as well. And then put him in with Kelly as well. Like, I mean, Kelly was just unbelievable last year. He's probably in your top 3 hurlers in the country at this moment in time. They bring a lot of energy to that Clare team. And then you have Shane O'Donnell as well, who I'd say he hasn't been brilliant yet this year in the league, but he could cut loose in the championship. I just feel that Lohan has had an awful lot of issues off the field last year and particularly this year as well. And that might have stalled him a little, but like, Lohan will still get the best out of those players. And you go to Portlaoise last year against Wexford, there was a lot of pressure on that particular Clare team, and they produced a massive performance with a lot of pressure behind the scenes. I think, Anthony, I don't know, would you call him maturing, but certainly there's a lot of steady lads in that team at the moment. And even the loss of Pat O'Connor to a cruciate as well is a big blow because he's been a great player for ye. But the energy that's required, and like Waterford are going to bring an awful lot of energy. They're very, very fit, and they will like the first 20 minutes of the game yesterday against Galway. They were outstanding as well, and it's a question of can they do that for 70 minutes, which I think they will because they get to the All-Ireland final last year. Once it hasn't left a scar on them, I think Waterford will be a really positive team as well. So that game in come the championship is totally up in the air. But coming back to where Clare are at the moment, I think a lot of the hassle and the rubbish that was going on for maybe 3 or 4 weeks, that maybe has just gone away into the background with the result over the weekend and possibly coming, timing the run now pretty good, I would say. That game that's very much a flick of a kind now between either of those 2 teams.
Yeah, I think Waterford be entitled to be favourites, on all
cool
form. I know you're right. I'm not doing the Shane Dowling here now.
Yeah.
No. Well, enough from a Clare point of view, I fancy this game. I will be having my tenor on Clare. But I think Waterford, sure, over the last 2 years, Waterford are entitled to be favourites, But it's not as clear cut as maybe a lad who'd be just checking in and looked at Waterford beating Clare well down in Cork last year, getting to the Munster final, getting to the Ireland final. You should be beating Clare, but it's not. We know it's not as simple as that. It's not as simple as that.
The other story from Clare, I think, Anthony, has been Colin Malone's progression over the last 2 years,
Absolutely
3 years. A great kind of indication for anyone that really works hard, gets himself in peak condition, and sticks at it. Perseveres. He's one of those players probably that from the outside 2 years ago, he's one of those players that's probably more appreciated by his teammates without knowing the chap for the work he's done off the ball and on the ball, and just great to see him coming to the ball. And the second thing I say is that it can be powerful when the rumour mill and innuendo is in full swing outside your group and inside your group. If you can kind of point that in the right direction, with the likes of the leaders in that group, Davey, McInerney, Kelly, Galvin back in the fold, Davey Reedy coming back with a little bit of form as well. That can be a powerful kind of driving force within your group, regardless of what's happening on the inside or on the outside, if you like. And there seems to be a touch of that with Clare at the moment that would worry me from a Waterford point of view, but it would certainly kind of alert me to kind of where Clare could go. That kind of not Lockmanish kind of siege mentality that G had between 95 and 99 or 2000, but. They're a proud group of young fellas, they've won a National League, they've won an All-Ireland for Clare, and some very good players there,
Yeah, and it's probably Liam Cahill is probably happy enough too, though, that he's the one players are hearing this stuff. We spoke about other stuff earlier with the Wexford lads meeting people. There's no doubt about it. The Wexford or the Waterford hurling public are not going around saying Asher will beat Clare. They're not. They're saying, that's the first game you have to, So look,
exactly.
Yeah, it's what was your take on Kilkenny? The brother-in-law was on Radio 1, Derek. I saw a good bit of it, but I was also conscious of the tip game, so I had Radio 1 on my phone, and I was watching the Kilkenny Laois game. TJ's John Mullane was doing the commentary, and John would have said, without TJ, like the attack is. Look at that. They've won every game. What are we talking about here? Like, you know, around about other counties that lost up in Corrigan Park. Wexford drew up in Corrigan Park. Kilkenny keep on same old TJ. Like you'd have to say what might have been over impressive, but it just 4 played 4-1 and we're giving out.
Yeah, typical Cody, that just machine just rolls on. Like, and they're only 100% records in the league of all the teams. Like, so, you can't say being over impressed. I do think that when it comes down to championship, there will still be an over reliance on TJ Reid. They will need him to deliver. Adrian Mullen is definitely a plus for. Like, you could, he hasn't kind of maybe hit the scoring charts just yet. But to me, he's a very classy player. His striking is very good. Like, he's going to be a championship contender for them. He's a big addition to that team. Look, Kilkenny, you can never write him off. They'll still be dangerous. Cody will be happy. He's used a lot of players as well, up in 30 players. He'll have plenty to pick from. I think he was kind of saying there as well that his injury kind of ward was definitely improving. That he had more players on the pitch this week, and we'll see more of them. He's in an ideal position for next week now because it's there's nothing really to play for. They have that side of the draw 1, and I'm sure against Clare that you'll see pretty much game time being given to somebody who could play in the championship down the road.
Yeah, we often, I suppose, in our involvement as managers or coaches or whatever with our counties, we would have looked for that key game, normally a challenge match, but we'd have picked it out maybe, and you wouldn't get a chance to play Kilkenny too often. But in Loughnane's time, in fairness, Kilkenny was usually the target game before you'd face into a Munster quarter or semi. You couldn't really get a more ideal game for him, Mark, when he going down into Ennis next Sunday. TJ will reappear. I presume, you know, Killian Buckley, whatever really is the makeup of his championship team, will nearly see action on Sunday.
Yeah, and I mean, it's from a Clare point of view, it is a fortnight out from championship as well, is it?
Yeah.
Against Waterford?
Yeah.
You know, that's a great game now. That is a super game, like, you know. But I just, the one thing I see about Kilkenny is that their forwards, the last couple of years, they weren't as physical. But like Owen Cody has turned into a man, I would say. Adrian Mullen, very strong. You know,
and Billy Ryan, like stepping up.
And Billy Ryan has a cut of Eddie Brennan about him now, like, you know, he's tall and lean and has a pair of legs under him, and he wants to take you on every time. And like the funny thing is that Owen Cody and Adrian Mullen have been the 2 young hurlers of the year and the 2 forwards for the last couple of years. So all of a sudden we're talking about the demise of Kilkenny, but they have 2 really good forwards coming, and you know, I know somebody was writing about TJ was coming to the end, and next the value of Owen Cody taking the mantle. So, I think they're an aggressive streak to them, a physical streak to them, and I suppose in the modern game, when you're looking, I think the 2 most physical teams at the moment is Limerick and Galway. But Kilkenny, to me, are the 3rd most physical team that are out there. They have a very hard-working team. They have no airs of grace about them. They never had, but they're not going to give up anything easy. I don't know whether they'll take a pull next Sunday, TJ, to be honest with it. Cody doesn't do sentiment, like he doesn't, he wants to win all those games, like, you know, and that is something, I suppose, from a Cork point of view. Like, we've no consistency when it comes to that kind of stuff. So
the only health warning I'll give you, Dale, about Kilkenny is if you were back in horse, right, you'd like to see what he's beaten in the last 3 or 4 runs. Where is that form that's going to take you to the grade 1, right? They've beaten Dublin, Antrim, Wexford and Laois. So at the outset, you probably expected that, Mark. So to me, there isn't a piece of form sticking out there that is telling me that these are serious contenders. I still think that they have improved.
But I know from your Limerick point of view, going down into Cusack Park and winning wouldn't really be a major bit of form in the horse race and parlance now that you're kings of the castle, like. But I still think, you know, that he's going to say this is one I'd like. I fancy this one down in us. I want to see them now. And you're right, you name out teams there. But to go into Parnell, I would say, that to go into Parnell, Wexford have had the upper hand on them in the last few years. So if he comes out 5 out of 5, it's fair form.
Yeah,
you're telling me.
I'm with you there.
You know,
You're telling me it's a bit like.
Go ahead, Mark.
Go on, Derek. I think, TJ, you're a bit like Dan Skelton now, right? Giving out about the Dublin Racing Festival, that Willie Mullins is getting a free shot to get his Grade 1 horses winning before they go to Cheltenham. Like, I mean, I like you're right in saying probably the 4 matches that he've won, he'd probably expect to win the 4 of them. But you still have to go in and do your business, and the margins of victories were still impressive enough. Like,
Mackie.
But this is probably the best game for them because Clare are actually come with a nice bit of form.
Right, but I'm going to ask you a very straight question. Very straight. Will either Dublin, Antrim, or Laois win the All Ireland in 2021?
No.
No, say it. Kick on, Dilla.
Jeez, they're into a new league. I tell you, I was wondering when we'd get the smell of Limerick, Man United sort of stuff off them. You know what I mean? Like, but it has occurred, lads.
Oh, come here. The shoulders are starting to spread, Dela.
Oh, and year cock, like, year cock. Listen to that, like.
We wouldn't. Yeah, the championship is all about the championship. So it's a bit like the fantasy hurling team. It's all about the championship.
I know that's a separate competition, kid. That's vitally important. Yeah, I would have just thought, TJ, going into tennis, he loved that, like. And they used to always mention that as well. They didn't like coming to Cusack Park, sort of. And he used to, of course, he'd wire them up. And even getting to know over our punditry times, wouldn't really know him. Getting to know Jackie and Henry and those, they'd often say, Jesus, he targeted that one big time. And they'd talk about some year go down in, that crowd are cocky down there over in the west of Ireland. We'd go over. And so I just think he will go full blast, 5 out of 5. There should be the league winners then, shouldn't they? I know we're not going to have a final, but in terms of who played the best in the league, you'd have to say the Cats. If they come and win on Sunday.
Yeah, they played the best, but they didn't play the best opposition, is what DJ is saying, and he's right. Yeah. In terms of, and that's a fair point. But I think, look, he'll know that Hugh Orr is going to be 3. He'll know that Paulie Welch is going to be 6. He'll know that TJ, John Donnelly, Adrian Mullen, Billy Ryan, maybe we haven't seen Richie Hogan yet in terms of the panel. We haven't seen Graham Mulcahy as part of the Limerick panel yet. Is that being managed, to keep them fresh right up to the last minute ahead of the championship? Will you see them slip in next weekend or whatever? DJ might know more about Graham Mulcahy on that. But, I think Kilkenny's sextet forwards will be good. They'll take mind, and that's one thing.
We haven't seen Walter. We haven't seen Walter either there.
Walter, that's what I mean. Like, so and the other thing on the Cathal Malone point in Clare, like, I love Paddy Deegan as well. I love watching Paddy Deegan, as regards just his honesty of effort and his real and authentic kind of version of what Cody loves. Like, just gives it everything he has. Makes mistakes if you like, but by Jesus, they're honest mistakes if you like, and just gives it everything on the field. Love watching.
Yeah, he's a throwback. Paddy Deegan, for me, he's a throwback to our time nearly. You could see him playing in our time. He's stuck in things, but I'd like him. And your point about Cathal Malone, just to double down, I just say, like, I might have been a critic of Cathal Malone, and I wondered would he get to that level. But just, you know what, Derek, your point there about Cathal, all energy, all work rate, giving everything. But his hurling has really come up as well, and that's true work. I'm just so delighted for that chap, I have to say, because it's an example, you touched on it, for every young lad coming up. You may not be the Tony Kelly, the silken skills, all this, but you can get there if you really want it. That's a massive point. And Deegan, same boat, probably, gives it all, lays it on the line, booked most days he goes out.
Yeah.
Like, you kind of love that as well. Like, look, they're in a good position. Could you believe, lads, the Tipperary team that was named, like, with due respect, Westmeath had been struggling. I just couldn't believe the strength of the team, the name. It just goes to show, lads, that this league is not like a February-March league. It's my championship team, and I want them ready. The strength of the Tip team named. Incredible, like. You say there was certain lads who were due a break, I know everyone got a week's break because of the format, but like, it's the strength of the team he named. Like, it just goes to show, and he doesn't have a quarterfinal game. Like,
No, but I think, Anthony, Tip wasn't good last year. The two McGraths looked tired. Paul McMahon looked out of shape a little bit. I think the team is physically is in really, really good shape this year. And I think he's building on momentum that has been gathered. And he just didn't want to give... look, when he put out a second squad, I think the Tipperary Hurlers would have been good enough to beat Westmeath. But I think he wants momentum. I think he wants confidence high. He wants the supporters behind the team. He doesn't want to give the supporters an opportunity to knock them. I see this as possibly Liam Sheedy's last year, to be honest with us. I think he's, going to try and go out in a high. I think, the semi-final game is massive for and the team that they'll be playing will have a game under their belt. He wants that team 100% ready. He doesn't want to have them 90% ready and, expect to come on for a game, because the team that whoever they're playing in the semi-final will improve a slight bit, I would expect, from the quarter-final game. And, the likes of Shamie Callan need a game time. It's his first game back, but like Noel McGrath looks a way leaner and fitter than he did last year, and he's a lot more energy. Same with John McGrath. But I think they want to really build on the momentum that they've already got this year.
Yeah, you'd actually want to be blind not to see, and even if you're blind, you'd hear it, that they are coming. And we wondered, would he chuck in a pile of the younger brigade? But he's saying, I'm charged with winning the All-Ireland for Tip, Derek. And he's going with what he thinks are absolutely his best. Affect the future in one way.
Yeah, no, you answered the question there. And you go with the best players you have. You have a duty to develop players for the future, if you like. But it's like the argument when Tip won the under 20 or under 21 All-Ireland 2 years ago. Who's involved? Outside Jake Morris, I know young Brian O'Mara was unfortunate there to pick up an arm break, but the best players are on the pitch, and it comes back to the sextet of forwards that are available to him, and the mix, missing Bonner, he'd probably go with Dan McCormack, and any five then of John McGrath, Noel McGrath, Bubbles, Jason Ford, Jamie Callan, Jake Morris.
Not Chevy.
Handy enough old crowd, like.
Yeah, and then look, a big bonus yesterday was Brendan Maher was very good at 6 yesterday. He was actually, he was good yesterday at centre back, and again, he's been kind of put on the shelf during the league. Got kind of sporadic time so far. So I think you have Brendan Maher and Ronan Maher half back, then maybe with Jamie Kennedy, and then you have Cathal Barrett, Porrig, and who am I missing then from left corner back, lads? Can't think.
Heffernan.
Barry Heffernan. Barry Heffernan. So that's probably their team. Yeah. The other thing they may go with Noel in the middle of the field and maybe bring in another forward then, you know what I mean, from that. But that's, like the Tip are good, lads. Look, Tip are going to hurt you. They can hurt you. If you hold Ford and Callan on a given day, the two McGraths can hurt you. Like, so they have the hurler and they have the hurlers. So Liam knows what he's doing as well. And look, you're right. You made the point that there's no quarter-final match, so maybe they'll attack this last game in Welsh Park and not really worry about the consequences of having to meet Waterford in a semi-final, if you like. And that's probably the expected route. The other advantage that county managers have now is they have a free run into it. There's no going back to the club now for a couple of weeks before the championship. You can be sure the under-20s in Tip are involved in in-house matches or for the next couple of weeks as well to get them up to the levels. But I look, Tip are dangerous, and they're not dark horses. Let's be honest, as they're up there with Limerick and Galway, I suppose, and ourselves perhaps as kind of the Kilkenny and Cork, if you like, as favourites for the other. I'm after naming about 10 teams, so if I keep naming teams,
you just throw in Clare.
You left out Clare, did you? I think you left out Clare, Derek.
Wexford. Left out Clare and Wexford.
Sorry, I keep going.
All Clare listeners, chalk that one down there, lads. Come on, once we got you out, you're on your 3 months holiday from the school, you see, and we just brilliant. No, brilliant. Well, come here, lads. I think Tip are going well, and I wondered what he'd do. I really think they're going well. Look, I love the league this weekend, I have to say. Even the radio, lads. Radio 1 is great at times because they're flipping over. Next thing you get Mullane, like, you write games. And you write games again this week. Like that fascinating game, Walsh Park, Tip, Waterford, Clare, Kilkenny. Wexford, Dublin, for me now, is a huge game. And for the Leinster Championship point of view, they probably won't meet with the draw. They might meet in the Leinster final, they could. But from their point of view, like Wexford, I think, need a win. Dublin need to bounce back. It's the fascination of these games kind of 2 weeks out is the huge thing. But like, what a load of shite Saturday night, let's face it. Like, we all knuckled down, not on duty, cup of coffee, and taking an hour out from the pub now. I have to watch the match, get an excuse to come up from painting and everything else below. What a load of shite in the Gaelic grounds. Like, I mean, what was the point? What's the point in playing these games if teams are going to go at it like this, TJ? It was a little shite, like, wasn't it? TJ, you there?
It couldn't have been better, huh?
Oh yeah, he's the Gary Spillane Wi-Fi went down on cue.
It just went down there.
You got the gist of what I was saying, TJ.
I did. I don't really know what to say. Like, look, Limerick didn't play 5 of their team. I would say probably their recognised first team. Like Nicky didn't play, Kyle Hayes didn't play, Tyrone Haggerty, Shemmy Flanagan didn't like. So it wasn't like as if the John was going full strength to get the win. I just don't know where Cork were at. For me, just a couple of questions I have. Believe it or not, right, there might be 1 or 2 positives in this for Cork, right? One, in that rate of 6 or 7 reasonably good goal chances, right, which they can take a positive out, right? Yeah. And number 2, they had puck out meltdown, right? It just did not work. Like the difference the moment you think, Jesus, my phone is ringing, will you go? Right. I'm back. Can you hear me, Delo?
Okay.
So what I was saying was the difference between Waterford, Galway, Tipperary, Limerick, let's say if you want to call them maybe the contenders to Cork, right, is that they can go short, they can go to the lines, right? But if you high press them, right, they'll pump that ball 90 yards, right, just to catch you on the way, right? That doesn't appear to be in Cork's armoury. Anytime they try to change up to 1 or 2 to go long, it was an absolute disaster. And then when the short ones didn't work early doors, it just completed a meltdown in the puck out. Now, if you take that Limerick scored 20 points and had 11 wides in the first half, right, 31 shots at the post, right? If that was repeated, it would have been 62. So that's 62 restarts that you have to try and get right. And if that's not working for you, well, then I don't think it'll take a sign to what's going to happen.
Yeah. Don Logue made the point on his punditry on the line that for Patrick Collins, Mark, it was perfect. It was 4 weeks and he'd have to face it. But I'm there at home, right? And I'm there. Ogie, come here. This could be a nightmare. This fella's making his championship debut in 4 weeks' time. And he's wondering, where am I going to go here? Because if I go along, Diarmaid Burns is man of the match, even though I suppose Cian Lynch was man of the match in all our points of view. But he gave it to Burnsy. And he, like, when he went long, sure, Burns just stuck up his hand and came away with ball after ball. Like, I mean, if you're Patrick, I didn't see Don Logue's point that this was, and I suppose that is the reality. His point was 100.
I think, yeah, it was. But I suppose, look, he was trying to turn the South's ears into a silk purse, really, like, because it was an awful night for Cork. And I suppose the goalkeeping union of Ireland was out again trying to protect his men, like, you know, because that's what goalkeepers do at the end of the day, like, you know. So I'd say, I mentioned it the last time we were on the pod about the Owen Cadigan situation against Tip. With a minute to go, he looked up 90 yards out. He should hit the ball over the bar, and he turned around to give a hand pass. I think that team, personally, is hamstrung by the instructions that are being given from the management, and particularly, I'd say, Donal O'Grady.
But when we all thought, Mark, yeah. When we all thought this was genius management from Kieran Kingston to bring Donal O'Grady in to tidy up the backline.
Jeez, I don't remember that conversation now, but I suppose the momentum that they had from the first 3 games, whereby they had scored 14 goals, had hull fierce well against Waterford, probably should have beaten Tip. We were lauding Tip 2 minutes ago, and Cork probably should have beaten them on the day. I suppose the reality is that Cork didn't have a strong team out on Saturday night, and I suppose for the likes of Dara Connery now, who was starting in the middle of the field. Like, when I look at you man Cochran starting half back for Limerick, who Richie English behind him, Declan Hannon is right hand side, and then you had strong midfield and Cian Lynch flying around the place. Like, it's great to be able to be introduced into a team like that with strong players around you. Then you, like, Billy Hennessy has played all the league matches this year. It would look like he's going to be starting in the team, but where does Bill Cooper come into that? Like, to me, Bill Cooper should be an automatic in that team. I don't know whether he's still injured. I know we had a lot of injuries going into the game, but I think from a Cork supporter's point of view, and even my young kids, Charlie's 8 years of age, we sat down to watch the match. He got up after 15 minutes, like. I said, oh, Jesus, we've been bait out the gate, like. So, like, there's a duty on the Cork management to promote Cork hurling, I suppose, and try and put the best foot forward. Now, if their hands were tied with injuries, I have no problem with that, right? And I don't have any inside track as to, you know, were the players badly injured. I know Hernady was injured in training again. Sean Cadigan might have been injured in training, but there's a few fellas that weren't playing, like, you know. So there's a lot of questions that need to be answered, I suppose. And I think going into the match again, in the championship match, they have a huge 4 weeks ahead of them now, because they're in trouble now against Galway. They're coming up against the most physical team going. What are they going to do? Are they going to chance fellas that are injured? Or are they going to hold them and say, look, the championship is the most important thing? You go out and you get a bad beating by Galway, and the team's confidence is in their toes. So I'd like to know what was available over the weekend, because, to be fair, they brought in a number of subs at half time. They actually won the second half. They were 12 points down at half time. They lost by 8. And it's Jack O'Connor's goal went in to hit the crossbar to win 5 points, which would have been totally false now, like, on the scoreboard. But I don't know, Anthony. I think we've undone an awful lot of good work that was done for the first 3 matches, right? There's a lot of good work has been undone by that performance, I would say, on Saturday night.
Tis a dilemma, like, what do you do? You're meeting the crowd again, Derek. What kind of disappointed me, and I'm only putting myself in Kieran's shoes. Do you know, I'm only trying to say, what would I do if I was there? And that's easy talk. But bringing on the subs at half time, bringing on Hoggy at half time, I would have thought were you going sticking or twisting? So you were either putting out a team, and if they got hammered, they got hammered. Where are you after it? I worry a little bit about that.
Yeah, and I go back to the point you made originally, which is the trajectory of the team, like, in terms of where you're coming from last year. And it was clear in the first game against Waterford, Cork played with real intent. They played with anger. They played with a bit of indignation. They played with, look, we need to attack this league in every game. And I thought that would follow through. So I was like, we would have done that, as I said before, at 15 and 16. In 17, we beat Clare down in Ennis with a last-minute point. And we made a raft of changes for the quarter-final, because in many ways our race was run. We fed for the league up in Galway against Galway with an 8 or 9 point lead, and but I remember making a massive mistake as a manager that day, and I made fucking many mistakes, but this is one of them, in terms of the game was going away from us up in Galway in 17 in the league, and Brick was on the line, Pádraig Manny was on the line, Shane Bennett was on the line, and I remember with 20 minutes to go, bringing them all on, and we didn't stick with the team of newness for the day, if you like. No, we should have brought on the guys, and we started panicking, etc. So our point is well made. So that's why it was a surprise. Now, as against that, I wouldn't be as doom-laden as Mark in terms of, maybe I don't, the managerial responsibility to the people of Cork to kind of. I still think that maybe with Coleman or Callan at 3, Coleman at 6, you're not Horgan coming on, and that 3 and 6 axis looks like it's going to be the axis for Cork's defence, if you like. But I still think there was a kind of a feeling of, look, out you go, see how you get on as a group, in terms of the young lads' approach. I still think there's green shoots of hope there for Cork in terms of not running at the Limerick defence, and not without agreeing with Don Logue. You're right, there was a meltdown on the goal, but he'll surely learn for the next day. Like, what will they do with Cian Lynch, for instance, if he goes to 11? Like, the irony of it is that Cork have spent a huge amount of time in the league concentrating on their defensive structure, right? Coleman is clearly sitting back there at 6, and they have a kind of a deep half forward. And they've scored the most goals in the league. They've scored, obviously they've scored 7 goals against Westmeath without being disparaging about Westmeath, but they've scored the most goals. So the key now is to make sure that if Lynch is at 11, Lynch at 11 gives you a different issue than David Reedy at 11. With all due respect to David Reedy,
Yeah.
You know, even if you go back to the first 20 minutes in the All Ireland final, Lynch was pulling Tig everywhere, and Tig was sitting, and we were marking Lynch by going left and right with him with our midfielders and our wing forwards. But at least now they've seen Lynch at 11. And who's to say Lynch won't go to midfield for the game against Cork in the championship match? But I wouldn't be as doom laden. The one thing I will say is that I think Cork need, like most teams, they need their best players on the pitch to be competitive against Limerick. I.e., they need to kind of Niall O'Leary Hayes, Cahalane, Sean O'Donoghue, if it's Tim O'Mahony, Coleman, whoever else is left half back, they need their best team on the pitch. Dara Fitzgibbon, they need Shamie Harnedy, they need Alan Cadigan, they need Owen Cadigan, they need their best players on the pitch, and they need to get them out on the pitch fast in the next week. I'd say I'd argue against Galway next week.
Yeah, to be fair,
I suppose. Go on. I was going to ask you about Limerick's attitude to that.
Yeah, it takes time to build a game plan from the Cork's point of view, right? And they were trying to change things up, and they're trying to mind the ball, right? Like the beauty for Cork here, right, is for the next 4 weeks, you only have one DVD to work on here, right? They made the mistakes, right? They fairness to the lads last night on TV, they highlighted what could have been done, the alternative decisions that could have really kind of helped the team a little bit more. They know that they have pace up top. The puck out has got to be fixed, right? Now, the question I'm asking myself is, can that be fixed in this short period of time? That's a tricky one. I just, outside of Shamie Harnedy, Mark, I'm struggling to probably find a player that can win maybe a 50-50 one in the air. Like, so let's say if you have, let's say, Jack Fagan or a Joe Cooney, or let's say from Limerick's point of view, a Gerard Hegarty or whatever, right? The outball. And is it good for the game, right, that you cannot go short with all these puck outs, right? I think that maybe coach is looking on here to say, right, if you go short all the time and the opposition do a high press, then you're asking for trouble. And I think Cork got that answer definitely very firmly on Saturday night. They have to fix that. Limerick, I think they were definitely improved. They were still trialling a few players, a few guys getting their game time. I don't think their approach to the league this year has been too majorly different. We were asking a question, was there a little bit of a questions or a crisis after the Waterford game? We didn't think so. The price hadn't moved, believe it or not, right? After Saturday night, after Sunday, the price of Ireland has extended a small bit. Not because of what Limerick did, but I'd say because of probably what Galway did. So, yeah. But, because of Galway, yeah. But overall, the game on Saturday night was shite. It wasn't pretty from a Cork point of view. And I was going to ask Mark there, like, what are the 6 forwards going to be in 4 weeks' time for Cork?
He's struggling.
Well, like, I suppose the first thing anyway, right? I think they're going to go with 2 in the inside line, right? And I think the decision was probably made at halftime on Saturday night that Dickie Dalton isn't going to fit that mix, I would expect, which I think is a bit harsh on him because he's a very good, strong, aggressive forward. So Hoggy will be up top. Then you're looking at Alan Cadigan or Alan Connolly, Jack O'Connor as the extra man with Hoggy. Like, to me, Jack O'Connor would be the front runner of those now at the moment. He got 2 goals again on Saturday night. He's had 2 goals already in the league, and he hit the crossbar. He's blistering pace, and yes. I think there'll be a big question mark. Alan Cadigan is a very experienced player and has always been involved, I suppose, with Cork for that. But the question is, do we go for the younger guy, the more up and coming, or do we go for the more experienced one? So that's the first question they'll have to ask. I've been looking at the thing about Shamie Harnedy, TJ. Like, what do you do with Shamie? Like, he hasn't, when we're taking so many short puck outs. Well, I was actually worried about Shamie Harnedy. Is he going to have any part to play in this game plan? But if I was involved now, I'd be picking Shamie Harnedy at number 11. But he'll be number 11 in my team all day long. And because simply I wouldn't be putting the ball down top of Diarmaid Burns or Kyle Hayes. I think that they'll be the 2 halfbacks when it comes to championship. But to me, Harnedy, my opinion is that Harnedy's best position is number 11. Now, Shane Kingston is the enigma. What do they do with Shane Kingston? Do you play him wing forward? Do you play him inside with Hoggy? I don't think they know themselves. I think they'd like that Shane Kingston would fulfil the role of a Tony Kelly, that would be centre forward and we'd be darting here, darting there, or your Cian Lynch, whereby they're really, really energetic, but he doesn't have the hurling of those two players.
But
he's a very good hurler.
But Mark, he's a starter.
Well, he has to be in the has to be in the team.
Yeah.
But the question is where. Like, I mean, Luke Meade is going to be in the 6 forwards, but he's probably going to play as a third midfielder. So maybe Robbie will be on one wing, I would expect. Yeah, he'll be on one wing, and then there'll be a dogfight for the other one. Like,
That forward line is not too bad.
No, and I thought the other night, like on all sharp puck outs, like it was the greatest exhibition of rope a dope I ever saw. Like that, we won't be doing this in 4 weeks' time, or will we? And I just thought, like, you know that. Why didn't we call it off, lads? Because if Cork don't, it's just one shadow boxing. Look at, I'm not writing off Cork in this match. You Limerick are the All Ireland favourites. He just said that they drifted a little bit. That was because of Galway. Jesus, they still have all the aces. And I was making the point maybe today in the article that it's like poker. Kylie has picked up, three queens, let's say, in his poker hand. So he knows he's strong. Yeah. He might buy another queen. He might buy 2 sevens for a full house. He has the hand if he can play them.
The other thing I'd say, Anthony, is that Cork, if beaten by Limerick, are still going to be a dangerous team.
Yes.
I think they're as good, if not better than what's on the other side in Leinster.
No, without a doubt, I think the Munster division, lads, has gone a good bit ahead of the other division. I don't care what. I know we'll have a few lads saying, "Hey, Munster snobs are back and all." Well, I think
with the exception of Galway.
Yeah, I do. I really think that whoever will be beaten in Munster, even from a Clare point of view, facing Waterford, probably say Waterford are ahead of us. Now, I wouldn't rule out Clare win the match, but even if you lose and you come out of it, good performance, go at it, I think you have a great chance of really getting into that last 6. On the basis, like, last year we lost to Limerick and we still wound up in that last 6 and met Waterford. So just goes to show you what can happen with the system. I think there was an element, though, as it was a false match, like, wasn't it?
Oh, completely false there. I think going back to the horse race and Paralance, if you're looking at form, I think this one you just draw a line through it. You just would, like. It was like completely, like, no intensity, like really questionable as to the effort. Like 6 points to 1-3 there after about 11 minutes mark, and half time is 20 points to 1-7. Like I was saying, Limerick had 31 shots at the post in the first half, and really could have been probably maybe more in front, right?
Out of sight.
The question I was going to ask the boys there about out of sight, right? There's one very clear difference, Derek, with Limerick and probably the Chase and Pack. Goals don't seem to be in Limerick's game plan to a major degree. And for me, I thought that, like, the other teams definitely are looking, like Galway definitely, like, content goal in his mind every single time.
Whelan.
I thought Waterford were looking at Whelan, Waterford were looking to break that line to get goals as well, right? Actually, just a side note there, Daisy Hutchinson's goal was out of the top drawer. I haven't seen one like it in a long time. I don't think he got the credit he deserved. What a goal, right? But I just think that there's definitely a key change there. I think teams know that if Limerick are going to hit 30 points, which they probably could, we're going to need to hit 2 or 3 goals, and it's on their mind.
Yeah, and go back to the first half of the All Ireland where Stephen Bennett had a goal chance, Jack Fagan had a goal chance. I know it's easy. I'm clinging to that now, but games can't change on those particular moments. Like, look, I remember watching the Munster final Limerick Tip a few years ago. The one Limerick won is 19, is it? And I still think there's goals in the Limerick team. And I think we may be sitting here some Monday morning as the championship develops talking about Limerick getting 3 or 4 goals as well. I don't think it's as cut and dried as it's not part of their game. I think a couple of incidents last year, Davey Reedy against Waterford, Davey Reedy against Galway, where the extra pass was on, 10, 15-yard pass into someone in space, Shamey Flanagan, I think it was, and the goal is on. The debate around the goals, if Socky doesn't make the 3 wonder saves in the first half of the All-Ireland last year, Cian Lynch has the goal, Kyle Hayes has the goal, if you like. So your point is well made. There is not an obsession or an infatuation with getting goals with the other teams. But I think And the brains trust Kinnerk and Kiley. I think they'll be working on hitting the onion bag over the championship now. And I think you'll see a kind of an attack towards the goal from Limerick as well, and a mix and match approach. That'll be my feeling on it. Could be wrong.
Yeah, and I suppose that's still the match that draws my whole mental looking forward. The Euros are coming up, and we love the Euros. We love watching that, like obviously, and we'll be fascinated with that. Who'll be at England is the main thing. But I do think the Cork Limerick match is hanging in all our heads, though. Despite Saturday night, it's hanging there.
Yeah, I know. Saturday night was very disappointing, but it really does depend on what hand Cian Kingston did have. He brought on Luke Meade and he brought on Patrick Horgan at halftime, so those players were available to him before the game started. Like the likes of the Tim O'Mahony, the Shamie Harneys, the Bill Coopers, the Owen Cadigans, like Colm Spillane has played no match yet. They will bring a physicality that will be required. Sean O'Donoghue's a very physical player as well. And he's a fella that I would love to see marking actually Aaron Gillane when it comes to the championship, because I think Sean has that pace and abrasiveness and strength to actually do a man-marking job on Aaron Gillane. The one fella for me that might be a dark horse after Saturday night and was the young fella that was left on for the whole game was John Melrick. Now, if there was somebody to do a man-marking job on Cian Lynch, I think that John Melrick would be laid out for it. I don't think Mark Coleman is going to suit that role, or Tim O'Mahony for that matter. And Robert Downey, just unfortunately, he's not progressing. And I mean, to me, he played fullback in the first 3 league matches last year and was outstanding. He just hasn't set the world alight this year for a guy that I did think he'd either nail down the number 3 or the number 6 position at some stage. But I wouldn't write him off yet, but he hasn't progressed enough for me at the moment. So John Melrick is the one fella that, if we're coming away from the match on Saturday night, it was a positive. He had a very, very good game, along with Jack O'Connor up front. Like, it will be, all the eggs will be in the basket in the championship match, Dalo. I think we could be in for a bit of a drubbing again next weekend, depending on how many of the injuries, where we're at, like with injuries and stuff for that next weekend against Galway. That's probably the last game you're going to be playing against now, is against Galway, 3 weeks out from championship. But I do believe if we get all the players physically back, I think we've had a number of good results against Limerick in the last 3 or 4 years. We won't be afraid of them. We will respect them, but there certainly is ability in that team at the moment if they hit everything right on the day. But it'll be all ducking out, That's the bottom line, like on the day, like.
Yeah, look, TJ, don't like the old Corkness is still there, TJ, so don't get completely sucked in. TJ, what's this crack about the drawing game? All the proceeds for Kia the House and the Smartins. What were you doing there, TJ? Because I saw the team and I thought it'd be a team that I'd love to see pulling up in a bus outside Murty Brown's, like.
Well, I suppose first of all, a good Limerick man there, Damien Quinn, has done this. This is the second year he's done it. He's raising plenty of money there for the charities. It's based on a couple of articles. I think that was one on yourself there last year in the book. So there's good reading in it. So I think, to be fair to Damien and trying to get his book sales, I picked a 15 for him, right? Which was, he asked me, the brief was to pick a team that I'd like to try and win games with. Try and go out with. Try and drink, try and have a beer with, try and have the crack with, try and mix the old and the new. And I, like, in the explanations of why I picked the players in the book.
Yeah, I tell you now, and it'd be great read, lads. But like, we're looking at the team here now, like, Rayler is in cornerback in front of Sean Finn. So due respect to him in Rayler, he was top class. Clarkey is right halfback. I'm going through it. Kieran, obviously, be automatic. Dodge is centre forward. Frankie is wing forward, and yourself and Donny are either side of Shane Dowling. There might be a few raised eyebrows in Limerick to that team.
There certainly will. But I suppose, Delo, if I challenged you to pick a Clare team between the old and the new, and in the middle, right, of guys that you'd like to be around, and like to drink a beer with and sit down with. Are you talking to half of them? You are like so.
I'm talking to them all. I'm all.
You're talking to them all. Okay, you're okay. So Landers might be in a bit of trouble, you know. So like we would have to. It's a challenge, but it's a bit of fun and fair play to Damien for doing the book and raising the quid. What I will say, just to divert a small bit, Delo, is just very quickly to give everybody a hope, right? Potentially, right? Given what we spoke about, we could be heading for the best Munster Championship, or maybe Championship, because everyone's got their house in order. I've said this already, right? We've had the time. They've given the game time to everybody. They've seen everybody. Derek said there's nobody going back to their club. Everybody's available. You have the time, right? There's some cracking matches on the line, right? Like everything is going to be on the line for Kingston when he comes to hurlers in 4 weeks' time, right? Lohan is going to really, really want to get a Munster Championship win under his belt, right? Like it's huge. Sheedy wants to get back in a Munster final, get that front pad. Davey Fitz, right? Everything is on the line as well, right? So for me, the referees are listening, which is good, right? The crowds will be back. Top of the ground, knockout matches. Porter is back, Delo.
Up.
Yeah.
I tell you, like the gladiators have to be named now. Like 2 weeks time, 3 weeks time, the gladiators. Like no more shadow boxing, no more resting. Oh, the Waterford team is named.
Exactly.
The Rebels are named. Like, can you imagine your man there? He's sitting with his bookcase behind him. Like, I wouldn't have picked your man. No, but it's a fair team all the same. Lads, it's mouth water and stuff like, isn't it? And a bit of crack. And as I said, an outdoor pub is an outdoor television, TJ. Do you know anyone that will give me a good deal an outdoor television?
Outdoor television
for Kilkenny and Clare next Sunday.
We'll get started. But the other thing I was going to say is I was actually at Mass yesterday morning, Della, right? And the priest, he opened his sermon talking about COVID, right? So he said that what COVID taught us is our needs are small and our wants are huge. And I was wondering, he's talking about hurling now.
He sure is. Okay, brilliant, lad. Just to mention our fantasy league, our listeners, the pod. Michael Cafferty is still there, lads, down on a hurling league from Achill Island. Fair play. I mentioned for Brian Coote from Kilmaley, the misses crowd. So he's right behind him there, 7 points. It's nearly as intense now as the Super League. And we'll see. Larry, I think Larry waits for me to pick my team. He gets on to Cahill in Owen Rua and said, who has Dalo there wing forward? And that's the way it's gone, sort of, So, yeah. But
Dalo, hey, take off that Wexford hand grip, will you, for God's sake?
No, a big shout out for Butler Hurley's lads, our sponsors for our listeners league. And Mark, I still have that wooden spoon from last year. Mark, is there any chance you'd give it to someone else? Do you know? Call it Buffalo Compact. That's what 1,045. I'd say it's fairly compact, all right. Yeah, second hand after today, I'd say. Bye, Larry. Larry, you're getting very good at these little screen things. Or I'd say it's Rafe, maybe, but that's great stuff. And we'll see you again next Monday. We'll have a little break for a week. And by Jesus, the Gladiators will be going into the ring. Derek, you better be ready. We're going to bring war. Rest up.
Supporting all 32 counties through the Allianz Leagues.
A grain of rice, a grain of rice is going to tip the scale. Just remember that, lads.
There's a small bit of a needle there.
Come on, Mayo, you've got to get Andy Moran into the game. Our mission was to show that we're no longer the whipping boys of Munster.